world of sports has been changed, perhaps forever, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of youth sports programs have closed, and a lot of other opportunities have arisen in terms of things like Peloton, Mirror, Tonal, and other at-home gyms. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the impact that the pandemic has had on the sports world. And my guest today is my classmate, Dr. Andrew Sacrani. Andrew has a background in athletic training, and he completed his doctorate in health science in May of 2020. Hi, Andrew. It's nice to see you all the way from Montreal.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
It's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk about these things because, I think a lot of people don't really consider the impact of the physical health on your mental health and how sports are more than just a game for people. So I want to find out from you a little bit. I know Canada is still under a lockdown. So I've started to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since we've had this pandemic. And we train in small groups and we don't wear masks because Jiu-Jitsu is so physical. I don't think you'd be able to breathe with a mask on. It's a little challenging even without it sometimes, So how is this lockdown impacting people like in Canada in terms of their workouts? And I don't know if you're a hockey fan, but like what's happening with hockey up there and stuff like that? What's going on?
Well, let me start off by just saying where I am in Montreal, we recently entered, I guess you could call it, I think they either called it the yellow or the orange zone, which restrictions are starting to be eased, and effective today or this coming Monday, whenever it is, we're entering the green zone. So we're not really in a lockdown as much anymore. I mean, there's still levels that we have to respect and guidelines that we have to respect and whatnot. But when it comes to gyms, so gyms reopened almost 3 weeks or a month ago, and when they reopened, there was still that instance of having to wear masks when you're training, and you wouldn't be able to take them off while you train. But as things started to progress, started to get better, they started to ease restrictions as well. So the next stage, I believe it was part of the orange zone, was that they had told people, okay, yeah, now that cases are dropping, now you could, when you go to the gym, when people are training with a certain exercise, you could take your mask off. And now with being in a green zone, you don't have to if you're fully vaccinated, you don't have to have your mask on. If you're in a gym, you can still have your mask off now. So restrictions are starting to ease, which is very good, and a lot of people are progressively getting back into the gym and taking care of their physical health again. I mean, the gym that I go to, they've started to get a lot busier compared to 3 weeks ago when it was very slow. And now, yesterday I was there and there were many people training and many people enjoying themselves. Compare that to about 2 or 3 weeks ago where it was very quiet. So as cases are starting to drop and the safety levels or the zones that we're in are starting to drop as well, and we're starting to get a little better, people are starting to get vaccinated. Yes, people are starting to be a lot more determined to work on their physical health again.
What's happening in terms of your youth sports in Canada? Because several states here in the United States closed their youth sports programs, and some of those have remained closed. Some of those, I think, are starting to come back. What's happening up in Canada?
Well, excuse me. With youth sports, I believe that with orange zones or zones, like correct me because I'm not too familiar with how these work. With the green zones or the orange zones, people are like kids and adolescents and adults are now allowed to be part of team sports and train again and be a part of like either get on the ice or a soccer field or whatever it may be. I mean, I've been I've gone biking around my area, and whenever I go biking, I see some adult leagues of people playing like of two teams playing soccer, people playing baseball, basketball. Um, I don't know much about hockey because I don't go to ice rinks, but I mean, people are starting to play a lot more sports and enjoy themselves because the government here in Canada, depending on where you are in Canada, they are starting to ease restrictions as well. Now, the one thing that is still undetermined, and I mean, I know this isn't part of the question, is about the border. We don't know what's going to happen at the border on when we're going to be able to travel again, and people who want to see their friends and possibly go and like train with them or play sports with people, their friends in the United States, or just like travel for leisure. I mean, Canada announced the other day that they're reopening the border to fully vaccinated people, but it's just a question of how they're going to have to prove that. But people with one dose or not having one dose won't be able to cross yet. So there is still that aspect when it comes to the border, which is another topic. But I mean, when it comes to sports, people are starting to go out and play sports again. Yes.
Yeah, I think the border is almost its own show, but the border does impact the world of sports because we do have, baseball teams that are Canadian based that then play U.S. teams, and I know that's true also for hockey. Um, so I think that you're right. Like it's sort of its own issue, but it does play in here not only for professional sports, but I'm sure for some of the youth sports as well, and just for like people in general, like being able to travel and do those things. Canada's vaccine rollout is also almost its own show, with some of the stuff that's gone on, that we've learned about from some of the mistakes that were made. Don't send me nasty emails. I'm not bashing Canada, but they have made some errors that,
Yeah.
have made it more complicated for people, and have sort of created more chaos than they needed to have, as opposed to how we've rolled it out down here in the United States. Um, do you think that the pandemic has hurt sports because kids kind of got used to being home and just playing video games, and some video games may have a physical component to them, but most of the ones I've seen don't really have a physical component to them. Do you think that that's hurt sports and getting youth into sports, or do you think that that's not really an issue?
It can be seen as a double-edged sword. So I mean, there are parents that want their kids to be physically active and want to always go out and have fun and enjoy themselves, whereas there will be some parents like now and even in the future that I've told people that one of the issues that will always come into play will be how parents will look at the scenario of how people uh, how we're getting vaccinated, but one of the variants could take over, or or there could be another virus that comes out in a year or 2 years. So I mean, I'm not trying to say that parents will prevent their kids from going into sports because kids need to stay physically active just as much as adults have to stay physically active. But I mean, has this hurt sports? For now, I don't think so. I think it'll have to be something very drastic, such as maybe the Delta variant taking over, where that shuts down things maybe much longer. Because from what I've heard, the Delta variant is a lot more transmissible. That they're going to go out and say, okay, like we have to go out into another lockdown. So I mean, anything could happen really at this point. We don't know, like we don't have a crystal ball to see how people are going to react to this virus, like the one of the variants or a booster shot, or how like anything happens down the road. Like we just have to focus on today and see what happens. But as of right now, I mean, like for instance, here in Montreal, like I mean, Montreal Canadiens just made it to the Stanley Cup final, and people were out like partying, and there must have been 8,000 people all crowded together downtown, and they didn't care. Like they were out there having fun, and from what I know, there weren't many cases that happened in those in that gathering, but we don't know. I mean, people always want to be social. People want to have fun with their friends, but as well, people have to be cautious still.
I think that in a lot of ways, the case count, we'll get that data later because there's always a gap. What's interesting about how Canada rolled out vaccinations up there is in the United States, we told people you couldn't mix and match. Like if you got Moderna's first shot, you had to get Moderna's second shot. In
Yeah.
Canada, they told people they could mix and match. And so it's been very interesting to see what's happened there, because apparently mixing and matching, don't mix and match. If you get a Moderna shot, stay with a Moderna shot. If you get a Pfizer, stay with Pfizer. J&J, it's still at this point a one shot. People need to stay with the same manufacturer for the maximum effectiveness. So it's been interesting to see some of these stories unfold. And I think you're right. I think people do want to be social. I think that's been a huge problem for people. Is these restrictions have really taken a toll on everybody's physical and mental health. To your point about the gym, I know here in the United States, people are supposed to be sanitizing equipment, after they work out. I know some people actually will sanitize before and after they work out because they don't trust other people. What's happening in your gym? Are you noticing, are people actually sanitizing the equipment properly in the way they're supposed to? Or are they just expecting the next person to come in and sanitize, and then work out, and then sanitize again?
You know, ever since gyms reopened again, I've never seen people be a lot more, words not determined, but a lot more respectful of the property of the gym now, where they're wearing their masks, even if they don't have to wear them these days, like they're still wearing their masks long term. They're spraying down the equipment after. They're wiping everything clean. They're putting all their weights away, all these things. And I mean, there's like the select few people that are still like acting that they have egos and they're selfish and they're just leaving their like a stack of weight or equipment wherever they want and saying, okay, the next person will clean it up. There's always going to be the few people that are doing that. But surprisingly enough, at my gym, people aren't really like leaving weights around or not like disrespecting the area. They're really cleaning up. They're cleaning up. They're putting the weights away. They're spraying down the equipment. They're spraying down the barbells just to make sure that the virus doesn't affect the gym and that the gym doesn't close down. Because for a lot of these people, and I don't think a lot of people realize this still, is that the gym is the livelihood for many of these people that want to go to the gym, that need somewhere to go, like from their families, or like, not to say it in a bad way, but like they need somewhere to go from their families and just to go and relax and take it easy and like burn off some steam or whatever. And I think what's going through people's heads today is that if they can at least prevent the gym from closing again by just grabbing a paper towel, grabbing a bottle of disinfectant spray, spraying down a bench, spraying down some dumbbells, doing whatever, and that will prevent the gym from closing. Then they'll take another 3-4 minutes in the workout, or like in the whole duration of their workout to do it, just to make sure that they don't have to lose another 4 to 5 months of training.
I'm really encouraged to hear that, because I think that especially in places like the gym, like it's the responsibility of the entire community to make sure that they're doing the correct thing, because you're right. Like, the whole gym will close, and not only does that owner lose money, but you as a member lose training time and whatever else you guys do at the gym. I don't know, because
Yeah.
I've never really I've gone to gyms before, but I've never been overly involved. I'm pretty much the kind of person who works out and goes home. So I don't really stick around for any of the communal or social experiences that people have, in the gym context, um, or for that matter, in a lot of the sports contexts. What are your recommendations for how people can work out and continue to stay safe as we watch these variants, and these restrictions?
Really, the most important thing somebody could really do at this point is just to be as cautious as possible and to try to be as clean as possible, because it's not. I find that there are people still that are really just thinking about themselves and not thinking about the public and saying, oh, you know what, somebody else can go clean my weight. Somebody else can go and put this back for me. Somebody else can clean up this bench. Oh, if I leave some sweat on the bench, I'm not bothering anybody. When I don't want to say that it's not that you're not bothering somebody, but it's all the members of a gym that that we're relying on having that like environment to go and like train and exercise, and it takes one person to really break the rules, break the protocol, and say, oh, you know what, they're going to disrespect the rules, they're going to disrespect protocol and do what they want, and that's going to lead to another closure. And all that to say, I mean, people need to realize that they can't just go out and like take it for granted and think, oh, they're gonna go and like leave their weights wherever and like leave sweat on the bench and dirty the gym. And it takes, and again, like as I said, it takes one person, and God only knows if that person might have a variant of COVID or the flu or something else like that. That all of a sudden we go to another lockdown right away. So just to answer your question, it really goes back to everybody just being safety, healthy, and not thinking about themselves and thinking, okay, you know what? There's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, whatever thousand amount of people that go to the gym. I'm not the only one. I can respect this and the part to clean up, because it does to square one.
That's really interesting, because when you start talking about the flu, um, one of the things that we've seen in the United States is like flu season practically disappeared because everybody was either in a lockdown or wearing their masks or socially distancing or a combination thereof. And so we find that these protocols for COVID also affect other illnesses positively by driving those rates down. I think your insight is very wise about some of these variants and booster shots, and we will wait and see what happens. In fact, I know we have second generation vaccines about to be released, and we have, I think, one candidate for a third generation one that's in clinical trials now. So I actually have an episode dedicated to vaccines later in the series. So Andrew, I appreciate you taking the time to come and share this advice with us. Do you have any final thoughts for people at home about this pandemic and sports and what the future holds? I know none of us have crystal balls, but just a thought.
Is like part to really make sure that get vaccinated. I mean, we have to get vaccinated. All of it. At first, I did agree with the vaccine, but if it allows me to start traveling again and moving about and having more freedom and being able to go to the gym, then if I have to put a dose of God knows what in my arm, then that's what I have to do. So I mean, it's just to say that everybody needs to do their part. Everybody needs to respect the rules, respect protocol, and do what's needed. That way, we can get to the end of this virus. But we can't I'm trying to think of the correct term. We can't act blindly and say, oh, you know what, the vaccine is the end, like is and all be all. There's always the extension of what happens after that by always staying healthy, watching what we eat, making sure that we're not taking in foods that are going to affect our health, and like really just overall just taking care of our health, because we have the world basically has to institute change. And if COVID has taught us one thing, is that we're always going to be over reliant on pharmaceutical drugs unless we change. And we haven't learned anything yet. All we've learned is that we're always reliant on pharmaceutical companies, and we have to learn to change. And change means adapting, possibly changing what we eat, being more healthy, and exercising more. And that's really what I can say in the end.
Andrew, thank you. So what types of recommendations do you have for exercising more and making some of these changes? We've covered a lot of ground today, but I'm just interested in what your thoughts are and recommendations as a final thought to people watching us today.
There are a lot of research articles out there, and I mean, I don't expect people to go out and read research articles, because myself as a science-based individual, I understand like more the research than the average person. But I mean, when you look at a lot of the science out there and training and exercise and nutrition, people need to start doing a lot more research to see, okay, what's healthy, what should they be eating, what can they be doing to improve their lifestyle and quality of life and well-being, and focus on those things, like focus on nutrition, eating properly, focus on exercising like properly, like taking care of themselves, walking, drinking water, all these things. It's not eating McDonald's, eating fast food, eating processed foods. It's really just adapting and making sure that like you eat well, and you try to improve your life expectancy. You try to improve your life expectancy.
Thanks, Andrew. I think it's been a lot of fun to get your perspective on all of these issues. I know for myself, you hear me say this all the time. I always ask you kinesiology geeks my kinesiology questions because, I don't get it. I know just enough to be dangerous. And sometimes even when I read the information correctly, it seems like a lot, like the whole half your body weight in ounces of water. Like for me, that's now a gallon of water. That's a lot of water to drink every day. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come on this show and discuss this very important topic of sports in the time of COVID, and to bring us the perspective from Canada, because I am always interested in what other countries are doing. It's the global health geek in me, and it's been a great discussion. I hope that you've enjoyed it too.